So today we're going to go through the different features that you can use under the Pro subscription for data farming. First up, we're going to have a look at some imagery. So I'm going to come through and select a farm and select this field here. Now this field, I'm going to head back to September when the crop was growing and take a look at cloud-free image. So along the bottom here, just a reminder, the percentage is the percent of cloud cover over that area. So September 14, 2025 here, we've got 0% cloud cover over this field. So I can see here my NDVI. Under the Layers tab, you also have the ability to look at a number of different algorithms if you have the Pro subscription. So NDVI we find is really good for kind of early germination and lower biomass crops, and you can see that differentiation here. You can see the values. If you have a higher biomass crop, we actually start to recommend, once it starts to saturate out, using the NDRE. You can click on these info buttons just to understand which of the indices to use at what times. The NDRE basically has a red edge that we can't see that just helps distinguish differences or variations in those mature crops. So if we have a look, it potentially in this case will come up quite similar. Yeah. Because this one hasn't yet saturated out. You've also got access to, under the Pro subscription, moisture, which is really good for having a look at any kind of irrigated crops. You can understand where moisture is being used, but you can also use it to have a look at waterlogging and everything like that. And plant cell density. So these NDRE, moisture, PCD, they are all only available under the Pro subscription, and they just give you some different options to understand what is happening in the crop. PCD generally used kind of more in vineyard and tree crops, but it can also be used when, to compare against the NDVI and the NDRE. So that is the extra features in terms of the imagery that is available under the Pro subscription. We're now going to have a look at stack analysis. So I want to create stack analysis. It's going to zoom in on this field that I've selected, and I'm going to call it stack. I'm going to go for a similar month, September, in this case. So you roughly want to do it. You can do this at many different times, kind of basically to understand the variation at different stages of the crop over a number of years. So you can do up to 7 years with a stack. For Pro subscribers, you get to do unlimited stacks. So you can do several of these and basically compare against each other. I'm going to select the last 3 years here. And then you need to select a date for each one. So I'm going to select this September 14 image because I know that is good from last year. Then I'm going to come back, and September 2024 is actually quite cloudy. So I'm going to then go back instead to August. No, might go forward to October and choose a cloud-free image again, and then pick one as well for my 2023 date. So once you have all of the dates selected, hit create stack analysis, and this basically stacks the NDVI images on top of each other and tries to find a trend in the variation across the field. So once it loads, you can click View in Map Explorer, and you can see I've got my 5-zone map there. If I want to then export that out, I can click to export it as an individual file, or if I've done multiple paddocks at once, which you can do under Pro, you can click to export the entire farm. If you've done a whole bunch of stacks and you want to get rid of some, you can also click to archive them. So once I've got my stack, a lot of people use the stacks for creating prescription maps, or they might use it to kind of drive their soil testing, so understanding these different zones. So I am now going to go and have a look at the prescription maps. So again, prescription maps under Pro, you can do unlimited. So here you can choose your layers. I'm going to choose, in this case, my stack analysis, but you can also choose your standard resolution. You can choose a high resolution if you have that imagery available. Same with rapid EM. So if you have hired the EM and you have that available, you can use that instead. In this case, I'm going to choose my stack and the one that I just did. It's going to then allow me to use the auto zoning tool. So in this case, I'm going to use this stack for soil testing. So I just want to have a look at 3 zones and at an output scale of 100 meters. So basically when you're creating the prescription maps, your output scale kind of represents, how fine or how coarse you want to be applying the product. Whether, you're using this for spraying or you're using it to spread fertilizer. So I'm going to hit, in this case, 100 meters because this we're going to use for soil testing. Cool. So it zoned that up into the 3 zones for me. If you don't want to use the auto zones, you can draw your own. I'm going to then hit next, and it'll come through where I have the ability to edit some of the zones. So if you need to, you can clean up the zone. So if I want to paint that in and make it part of my zone 1, I can. It's just kind of like old school paint. I'm going to leave it in this case as zone 1. Then you can apply your rates that you want to use across this if you are using this map to do any kind of variable rate work. It will automatically then calculate the amount of product that you need across this field. If you've got areas that you want to run a trial or kind of exclude from the VR map, you can add another zone and then come through and polygon cut or line cut. So if I know I've got something down here that I want to exclude from this, I'm going to add this additional polygon in, and then I'm going to paint it as zone 4, and it's going to have a 0 rate. So that's creating a prescription map. If you need to, you can go back to the map settings and change the number of zones, anything like that. But if I hit create prescription map, it'll then come through and I can view it in the map explorer. Similarly to with the stack, once you click on these 3 dots, you've got the ability to export out your prescription map, which you can then load straight into a machine. You can also come back once this finishes loading and click on the 3 dots and edit the prescription map if you need to change the rates or anything like that. But again, with Pro, you can create unlimited of these, so you can set up a whole range of different options for your VR maps for your fields for the season. So if I hit edit, it'll come back in to the previous screen and allow me to adjust the rates, but otherwise I can export this out and start using it. The other option you have under Pro is creating field trials. So if I hit I want to create a field trial, and then you can either use the line cut or the polygon cut to create your trial areas. So in this case, I'm just going to come and cut across the field to create my trial strips. Hit save changes, and then I can add treatments. And like the prescription map tool, you just use a paintbrush to add these in. So once you've added those, you can also label the plots. If you want to hit edit, you can name them separately, but otherwise they have your treatments there and you can see that. Hit save trial. Here you can press confirm and proceed, and then come through and view this in the mapping tool. So a lot of our customers who use the field trials are using to monitor the NDVI under the different trial strips that they've got here. But then also there's the ability to export out NDVI results, which we'll cover in a second. So once you have your trial set up, if you click on here and hit export result, you can export the standard resolution NDVI. So I can choose a range of dates, add that, add a bunch of additional dates. And then if I hit export trial result, it's going to create a CSV file that allows you to graph up these results with their NDVI values under each of the different strips that you've got there. Otherwise, with the field trials, the key thing people use it for is to have a look at the NDVI under their trials. So if I come back to when I know the crop is growing in this field, I can then play around with these two transparency sliders to have a look at where my plots are and what the NDVI response was in those different plots based on the treatment. So I can change down the transparency of my field trials so I can still see my plots but see the NDVI underneath that and monitor that throughout the season. So that is field trials. You can create unlimited of these under a Pro subscription. And then finally, the key other function under Pro, and this is only available under Pro, is your yield maps. So I'll switch farms for this one to one where we have the yield data. So in this farm, I know I have yield data for this field here. If I hit layers, I can have a look at my yield maps. And it'll load up my yield here. The way to import your yield data is coming back to the home page, clicking import yield data, choosing the farm that you want to bring it in for. In this case, the boundaries need to line up. And then in this case, I've already set up my connection with John Deere. We'll touch on that in a second. But it will show all the organizations that you have access to in Ops Center. Once you select an organization, it's going to give you the different paddocks or fields that are available, and you can click on those, it'll show you then which fields you've got, which crops and the harvest dates that you want to import for each one. In this case, we've already imported all this yield data mostly, so they won't come up as available to import, but you just step through the different steps here, pull in anything that you need. You don't necessarily have to pull in data from every year. You can select specific years, or you can select a crop and a month range up here. So if I head back now to data farming, you can see over here, if I click on my account and go to settings, integrations, I've got John Deere connected up here. If you do not have that connected up, it'll step you through the process to pull that yield data in. In terms of importing yield data, you can actually import yield data from other machinery, so it doesn't have to be John Deere, into Ops Center and then pull it across into here and use your yield data then to create prescription maps and everything like that. So in this case, we'll just quickly create a prescription map from this yield data. So again, yield is only available under a Pro subscription. So if I click on this field, which I know I've got my yield data for, hit I want to create prescription map. I'm going to call this seeding 26. Can select yield then and select the date that if you've got multiple years of yield data in here to create the prescription map off. And then zone it up. Come through and pop in rates. And then create that prescription map. So that's how you can use your yield data to actually create your maps, whether it's for seeding or fertilizer application. If you're in the Map Explorer, and again, click on the 3 dots over here to export it out and send it to your machinery. Under Pro, you can click on multiple fields at once and zone them all up. It'll just take a bit longer to process your prescription maps, so it might say that it will email you once they are all done. Similarly to importing the yield, John Deere actually send it through kind of like in a batch process. So once you start importing it, it will basically give you a message to say we'll let you know once it is all there and you can come and have a look. But again, hit export and it can go straight into your machinery. So that is kind of the key functions that you get extra access to under Pro. So unlimited stack, unlimited field trials, unlimited prescription maps, and the ability to bring in your yield data. Thanks.